Welcome, Trina Pilonero, Silver Heights Farm.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you joined us. I don't even know where to begin with you. There's so many things we could talk about.
Okay.
So we could talk about heirlooms, right? That's something that you have been studying, cultivating, and you have such vast knowledge about that. You have a nursery, Silver Heights Farm. Silver Heights Nursery, I should say.
Right.
And then, of course, there's the slow foods movement as well. So where would you like to start, Trina?
Maybe I'll start with goats, because that's how I got in trouble with farming. I was a housewife for years and years and years. I had 2 teenagers when we moved here, and had been an at-home mother almost my entire life as a mother. And when I got up here and the kids were in high school, I had a girlfriend say to me, "Oh, I have 4 goats, and the little girl that helps me with it has to go back to high school." And I said, "Oh, I'll help you. I'll learn how to do goats." And so I became her cheesemaker. And then when that business didn't continue, I had fallen in love with goats, and I had fallen in love even more with making cheese. And while I had made cheese for these folks, I won a national medal making cheese. I mean, I really, really, really liked it. So I went away to Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo, and I took formal cheese making classes, and it's one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. That and give birth. I mean, they were both hard.
Giving birth and making cheese.
Well, learning how to make cheese.
Learning how to make cheese.
That was
My
hard.
goodness.
But I had a good time and came back, and then when I found out how really rigid the rules in New York are and how difficult it is and how expensive New York State is, and how unfriendly they are to farming businesses, I just decided, I'll just have goats and I'll have a little milk on the side and do that. So I had a herd of a lot of animals for a long time, but I did it by myself. My husband travels, he's hardly ever home. My children grew up and left home, and we're not real anxious to help Mom with the chores. And at the same time that I had the goats going, I decided to become a master gardener. And then I liked being a master gardener so much, I'd gardened my whole life all over the country. And so I decided to start a little nursery. And so I had the goats in the one hand and a nursery on the other hand. And the day that the goats showed up in the greenhouse and said, "Oh, a delicatessen," I knew I had to make a decision, one or the other. And at that point I knew I didn't have a dairy personality, because it's hard. You milk every 12 hours, whether you want to or not. I milked when I had broken leg. I milked when I had pneumonia, and I milked when I had a hot date with my husband and couldn't go on it until I was done. And I just decided this is not the life for me. It's just, so the goats did not win and the plants won.
The plants won.
The plants won. And I'm a tomato obsessed person. I've loved them all my life. My parents had huge gardens with lots of tomatoes. And as a child I said, when I grow up, I'm not going to have animals and I'm not going to have tomatoes or beans. And of course, I've done both.
Of course.
Yes. And when we first moved up here, I wanted a big garden. I went down to a local nursery. They didn't have the kinds of plants that I was looking for, the ones that had good flavor. They had productive plants, but not ones with good flavor. And I got mad. And I decided, this is not a good thing.
Yes, I can imagine.
And so the first year of being mad, I grew about 50 varieties of open pollinated, tasty tomatoes that were short season, which meant they could possibly be productive here in our cool area with a short season.
Where do you live, Trina?
I live up high behind Jeffersonville. I'm off of Swiss Hill Road, and so I'm up high, and it's cold.
It gets cold.
It gets pretty cold.
And so this is in Sullivan County, New York,
This
where
is
we
Sullivan
are,
County, yeah.
where I also make my home. Where did you move here from?
Oh, it was one of many, many, many moves. We moved out
Okay.
from New Jersey, about 100 miles away,
Okay.
with teenagers. We were actually seeking a better life for our teenagers who were becoming mall dolls, and we didn't like what was happening to them. We lived in an executive bedroom community, and our kids were turning into brats. And we wanted them to get regrounded, and so being around here has been great for them. Yeah.
So, wow,
So
okay.
when I started with the 50 tomatoes, I put a lot of, way too many varieties for one little family to eat. So I put all my excess out on the side of the road with a cigar box, honor system, and put a little ad in the paper, and people came and spent their money and took my plants, and it was good.
So Trina, where did you get this ability to grow things like this? I
Well-
mean, you're talking about when you're just starting,
Well,
even
my
experimenting,
dad-
and you're planting 50 different.
Well, my father didn't get out of university until he had 5 children. And so my parents had to have a large garden. And so we had an 1.5-acre garden, and I grew up thinking that asparagus was a common vegetable. That, and we had, our meals were just filled with vegetables because my mother knew how to put things up, and I thought that's how everybody lived. I didn't realize that that was not how most people live these days. So when I got started with the tomatoes, at the same time I was a master gardener, and so active at Cooperative Extension, and they were interested in helping the local farmers start up farmers markets in the area. There had been several attempts to start farmers markets here, and they just, for one reason or another, didn't work out. And so we tried one more time, and the Liberty Farmers Market is the first one that the Sullivan County Area Farmers Market Association opened, and the Grozinskis, whom you've just spoken to, and I, and what's her name? Reinshagen, Judy Gabriel, the Reinshagen family. The 3 of us and 2 people at Cooperative Extension were on the first board of directors for the Liberty Farmers Market.
How long ago was that?
Oh, we started the market in '95, opened the first one in '96, and I used to come to the Liberty Farmers Market every Friday, down at the end by the shed there. But I don't come anymore because I now go to Union Square in New York City twice a week. And I'm intentionally have remained a small business, and I can't do back-to-back markets without dying. I just can't do it.
And when you say intentionally you've remained a small business,
Yeah.
why?
Because
certainly is different than
I've
how most
seen a
people
lot of
think.
people get into business, and I like to get my hands dirty, and I like to plant seeds, and I like to transplant little transplants, and I like to work with it, and I don't like to work in the office. I mean, if I had wanted an office job, I would have gone out and found an office job. And I don't want an office job, and so I like to keep my hand in. And if my business were larger, I would have to be in the office, and I would be taken away from what I love. So that's why I intentionally have kept the business small.